Have you ever looked back at your life and pinpointed the exact moment everything changed? For me, that moment wasn't some grand, cinematic event. It was a quiet decision made on an ordinary Tuesday that completely rerouted my future. 10 years ago, I was adrift. I was working a job I didn't love, living for the weekends, and feeling like I was just a spectator in my own life. I felt stuck in a loop, replaying the same day over and over, with no real sense of purpose or direction. I was comfortable, but I wasn't happy. The gap between the life I was living and the life I dreamed of felt like an ocean I could never cross. One evening, scrolling endlessly through my phone, I came across an article about a woman who had quit her corporate job to become a potter. It wasn't the pottery that struck me, it was her courage. The story sparked something in me, a tiny flicker of what if. What if I stopped waiting for the perfect moment? What if I stopped making excuses? What if I took one small, terrifying step towards something I actually cared about? That night, I didn't sleep much. I was wrestling with a decade of accumulated fear and self-doubt. The voice in my head kept screaming all the reasons it wouldn't work. Yuri, not good enough. It's too risky. What will people think? It was a familiar chorus that had kept me paralyzed for years. But for the first time, another voice, a quieter one, started to push back. It asked, but what if it does work? What if you're happier? What if this is your one chance? By morning, I was exhausted but clear. I knew I couldn't keep living the way I was. The pain of staying the same had finally become greater than the fear of change. That was my one decision. It wasn't to quit my job right then and there. It was simpler and far more powerful. My decision was to start. Juste start. I decided to dedicate 1 hour every single day to learning a new skill I was passionate about. In my case, it was coding. It felt manageable. Not a life-altering leap, but a single, deliberate step. That first hour was clumsy and frustrating. I barely understood anything. The temptation to give up and turn on the TV was immense. But I remembered my promise to myself. I showed up the next day and the day after that. Slowly, an hour a day turned into a habit. Those hours started to stack up. Weeks turned into months. What started as confusing jargon began to make sense. I built my first, very simple, web page. The feeling was electric. It was tangible proof that I could create something from nothing. I was no longer just consuming, I was building. This small win fueled my motivation like nothing else. It wasn't about becoming a master coder overnight. It was about proving to myself that I could learn, grow, and change. This daily practice had a ripple effect on my entire life. I started eating better because I wanted more energy for my study sessions. I spent less time on social media because my free time now had a purpose. Mi confidence, which to slowly rebuild. I was no longer just the guy who was unhappy with his job. I was the guy who was learning to code, the guy who was building something. It changed my identity. After about 6 months of this consistent effort, I started taking on tiny freelance projects, often for free or very little money, just to get experience. Each project taught me something new and added a piece to my portfolio. The fear never completely went away, but my confidence was growing faster. I learned to see fear not as a stop sign, but as a compass pointing me in the direction of growth. About a year and a half after that fateful decision on a Tuesday, I had built a solid portfolio and a small network of clients. The income from my side projects was getting close to matching my salary. That's when I took the next big step. I walked into my boss's office and handed in my resignation. It was one of the most terrifying and liberating moments of my life. Walking out of that office building for the last time, I wasn't scared. I was excited. I was finally in the driver's seat. Now, looking back, it's clear that the big, dramatic moment of quitting my job wasn't the real turning point. The real turning point was the small, quiet decision to dedicate 1 hour a day to my future self. It was the discipline to honor that commitment when no one was watching. That single decision compounded over time, creating a completely new reality for me. It wasn't magic. It was the power of consistent, focused effort. It taught me that we don't need to have our entire future mapped out to start moving. We just need to choose a direction and take the first step, then the next, and the one after that. So, if you're feeling stuck right now, like I was, I want to ask you, what's the one small, manageable decision you can make today to start moving toward the life you want? It doesn't have to be dramatic. Maybe it's reading for 15 minutes, going for a walk, writing 1 page, or signing up for that online class you've been eyeing. The most transformative changes often begin with the smallest, most consistent actions. Your future self is waiting for you to make that choice. The power change your life isn't in some distant grand gesture. It's in the decision you make right now. Thank you so much for letting me share my story with you today. I hope it offered a little bit of inspiration or a new perspective. If this resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories about personal growth and creating a life you love. Let me know in the comments below what one decision you're going to make for your future. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.